SGSY scheme came into existence in the year 1999, and that itself had come after restructuring the earlier IRDP, TRICE and DWACRA. SGSY for the first time brought in the idea that people have to be organized. So women have to be organized, poor people have to be organized, and they also brought in the idea that livelihoods promotion is more feasible if it's done on a collective basis. These were the, I would say, different from what had happened earlier. However, there were many shortcomings in SGSY, one of which was the underestimation of the kind of effort that is required for a family to come out of poverty. A one-shot support, one single economic support doesn't bring a family out of poverty. So there I think there was an underestimation of the vulnerabilities of a household. There is an underestimation of the kind of capacity building that is required, kind of hand-holding support that is required. That was lacking in the SGSY. So the appreciation of the needs of the poor households, I would say, was not adequate. Second, there was not a proper support from the banks to the SGSY promoted groups. Again, both because of the attitudes of the banks, and also the banks felt that the DRDAs or the block development officers who were implementing this, the adequate efforts were not being put by the development administration. Third was a assumption that without really toning up the administration at the district level, at the state level, without making substantial changes there, the implementation of SGSY would be flawed. So, from the point of view of assumptions about poor, how people come out of poverty, what are the role of their collectives. So I would say that there was underestimation of that, and B, the role of banks, and C, the role of the state government, role of other support structures. So there were serious shortcomings in that. NRLM means a very significant paradigm shift, and what we would like to happen under NRLM is that we first recognize the strengths of the poor, and we look at the obstacles which are in their way to enable them to come out of poverty, and also look at timeline, look at the support structure. So one of the significant paradigm shifts is that we are saying that poor are extremely capable, and a very strong sense of self-help, volunteerism among the poor. However, there are obstacles in their way which prevent them from coming out of poverty. So the experience across South Asia, within India, is that building institutions of poor, building strong institutions of poor is necessary for sustainable poverty reduction. So the core, the heart of NRLM is building strong institutions of the poor. Now we recognize that this doesn't happen on its own. So therefore you need a strong, sensitive support structure coming right from state level to the village level. So there are two elements. There is a support structure which is catalyzing the formation of institutions of the poor. And the institutions of the poor, once they are strengthened, also become the support structures for the poor. That's a very interesting and important transition which happens under NRLM. So we have the focus, the core of NRLM is building strong institutions of poor, enhancing their knowledge, capabilities, such that they not only help their members directly, but they also become support structures. They take away the role which an external agency is supposed to play. So we want poor not to be dependent on external support structures, whether they are from government or from NGOs or from banks. We would like them to sustain on their own. So this is the I would say the core model of NRLM, and everything else is built around how this can happen. NRLM is based on learnings from across the country, learnings from poverty eradication initiatives taken by state governments or by NGOs. What comes from these learnings is that for a poor family to come out of abject poverty, there are 2-3 major requirements. One, the household is member of a social network and is provided nurturing, hand-holding support through thick and thin for a period of 6 to 8 years through their own institutions. The second requirement is that households should have adequate financial resources to meet their urgent needs, to meet short-term requirements, to meet long-term requirements. So our assessment is that each household would require about 100,000 rupees in several spells, again over a period of 6 to 8 years. And the third requirement is livelihoods, accessing livelihoods opportunities which are in tune with their knowledge, with what they already know. So this the promotion of appropriate kind of livelihoods, and they themselves are the best judges of what kind of livelihood should be pursued. So where these three things are present, we found that people could come out of poverty in very large numbers. The critical one is building institutions of the poor, which they own, which they manage, which they run, and each one feels that they are, it's a member-owned institution. We also realize that this does not happen in vacuum. It requires a strong, sensitive support structure to catalyze this. So formation of institutions of poor doesn't happen on its own. So therefore, the other requirement is the presence of a sensitive support structure. There are 7 crore rural poor households in the country. So NRLM mission is to reach out to each one of these households and stay engaged with them for a reasonable period of time to enable them to come out of abject poverty. So NRLM would reduce poverty by enabling poor households to build upon their own knowledge, asset base, to improve their livelihoods from within their existing resources by adding additional assets, adding additional skills, but all this happening through their own institutions. See, the Ministry of Rural Development in the strategy called Direct Attack on Poverty identified there are 2 streams. One is wage employment, the other is self-employment. So self-employment is where the poor persons are supported to enhance their assets, to acquire new assets, to enhance the productivity of their existing assets or to enhance their skills. So that with more knowledge, with the existing assets also, they get better returns. So self-employment strategy had these elements, that is say credit and subsidy for acquiring assets, skill building, enhancing their knowledge to get better returns from the assets, then some amount of marketing infrastructure so that whatever they produce they can sell, they can do value addition. So self-employment strategy was the focus of SGSY, whereas wage employment, of course, it also underwent several changes. Now wage employment is enshrined as an act. So you have the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So that takes care of the wage employment requirements of the poor households. The core belief of National Rural Livelihoods Mission is that the poor have innate capabilities and a strong desire to come out of poverty. For these innate capabilities to be manifested, they need institutional support, they need their own institutions. So NRLM belief is that poor can come out of poverty, should be enabled to come out of poverty through building their own institutions. The key guiding principles of NRLM are four. First and foremost is that poor people have a strong desire to come out of poverty and they have innate capabilities. Second is building institutions of the poor is critical to unleashing these innate capabilities of the poor. Third one is that a sensitive support structure is required to initiate this process of social mobilization and institution building. The fourth principle is that the package of services that the support structure offers should include knowledge dissemination, financial inclusion, livelihoods promotion. So it should be a comprehensive strategy for the poor. NRLM's primary goal is that a poor household should have adequate income, should be free from food insecurity, should have diversified livelihoods, so that if there is a risk to one livelihood, they are able to fall back on the other livelihoods. So the ups and downs of a poor household are addressed through a proper risk mitigation strategy, and a poor household should enjoy a decent quality of life, and whatever services are meant for the poor, whether it's health, education, other services, should actually reach the poor mediated through their own strong institutions. So it's a holistic view about poverty eradication. But two dimensions are critical. One is by building strong institutions of the poor, we are able to ensure that they enjoy diversified livelihoods and they also enjoy a decent quality of life. And in the country, we estimate that there are about 7 crore families, 35 crore population in the rural areas who are below poverty line. So NRLM's task is to see that each of these families are brought into a social network, and these networks are supported till these members come out of abject poverty, till these members are able to secure a decent quality of life for themselves. Prior to this, the normal approach was that there would be certain budget, and based on the budget, certain number of families would be covered. But in the 11th plan, Government of India took the decision that we have to set a timeline for completion of this work. So the mission itself means that it will be done in a time-bound manner. So we have this target of 7 crore households, and the states will develop a timeline for reaching out to each of these households. And once they reach out to these households, they have to be engaged with them. So they have to stay engaged with them for about 5-6 years. So the mission means that there is a sense that timelines are important and that everybody should be covered. So this will determine the kind of flows, the kind of fund flows that are required. So it is demand driven in the sense that we are looking at the universe of people who are poor, and then we have a strategy which costs certain amount, and there is a timeline for doing it. And in terms of paradigm shift, I think the very important paradigm shift is that we are saying that we have full faith in the capability of the poor. Partnerships with the poor are essential for them to come out of poverty. The other paradigm shift is we are saying poverty eradication by the poor. What this means is that it's not necessary for external agencies alone to take this burden of eradicating poverty. Our experience shows that poor people who have come out of poverty are the best trainers, are the best motivators to enable other poor people to come out of poverty. So NRLM would take advantage, would nurture such entities, such people who have come out of poverty as the main drivers of the poverty eradication program. So it's not poverty eradication by some external agency. It is poverty eradication by the poor themselves, through the poor, through institutions of the poor. So these are very important paradigm shifts, and that's where the challenge lies. People have to accept that poor people know what is best for them. It's not that as government officials or as NGOs or as experts, we cannot impose our ideas or impose our value system, impose our, follies on the poor. So we have to respect their capabilities and respect their knowledge. And I find that this is a difficult part. So for us to let go. But once that happens, once the belief in the poor becomes an integral part of program strategy, implementation,